What's cracking, y'all? Your boy Authentic back at it, man. I just did a Bleacher Report stream like just a couple of minutes ago, filled with a bunch of great information, man. That stream went really well. Big shout out to Bleacher Report and everybody that tuned into that. Kind of wanted to reiterate some of those points here, man. I thought it would be a really good conversation to have over here on YouTube and possibly a video that would have some great replay value. So my buddy Stan actually just texted me this like literally right before I went on air here, that Eli Manning is vouching for Daniel Jones entering the 2024 season. So he says they saw Daniel Jones, they were around him, they had him for a year, and they trusted that. This is a kid that has a bunch of upside, Manning told Andrew Machand and John Orand of the new Giants regime that started in 2022. He's still in the first year of the offense, played extremely well. He can run, he's tough, he can make all the throws. Just unfortunately, this was a tough year with injuries. He also went on to say he's going to come back, he's going to be healthy, he works hard, he's a great teammate, he does all the intangible things really, really well, and I think they got to trust him. Can put some guys, get some help around them, and continue to grow with this team. I think when you sign your key guys to contracts, he spoke on Saquon Barkley, Dexter Lawrence, Daniel Jones, you put these guys, you keep adding guys around them, and you don't just say, hey, switch it up right away because you have one bad year. Now, y'all know me over here. I could not disagree more with the GOAT for the New York Giants, Mr. Eli Manning himself. Big shout out to Eli. But I definitely don't think that that should be the approach. And the topic that I was talking about on Bleacher Report was, is it time for the New York Giants to tank? So I figured we would take that over here on YouTube and get to talking about that a little bit more over here. Now, I'm never going to tell y'all how to fan. This is how I started off that stream as well, because a lot of people saw this title and, you know, I started getting, you know, all the attacks and whatnot, a fake fan, all the fan police start pulling up, start saying whatever they got to say. Now, I'm never going to tell nobody how to fan, but listen, I'm also not going to tell you to root for losses, but let's keep it real. The New York Giants season is pretty much out of reach right now. And when you look at some of the key factors from that game against the Dallas Cowboys, it goes to show you how the New York Giants really are not ready to compete right now within the division, how the New York Giants have not closed the gap within that division. I want to speak on a lot of that. We're going to talk about the prospects coming out in the draft. Shout out to everybody who pulled up, man, because this was a really impromptu stream, and I just wanted to come up here and chop it up with y'all, man. So big shout out to all of y'all who pulled up early, man. I see Dom is in the building. What's going on, Dom? Hope all is well. Knicks Nation is in the building. What's up, fam? Juan is in the building. My man Jameson is in the building one time. Alfredo is in the building. What's going on, fam? Who else we got? NYG Season is in the building. Gregory is in the building, man. Shout out Gregory. Been rocking out with us. Cynical Narcissist is in the building. He says, is it time? Is past time. I'm right there with you. You know, I be trying to kind of keep it a little bit PC, a little bit, not apologetic, but just a little bit, you know, I ain't trying to ruffle the feathers too much. So I try to make it so at least you will click on the video. I'm not a clickbait type of guy, so I didn't want to make it like, hey, we're definitely tanking right now, and we are past time for us to be thinking about the tank, you know, if anybody's thinking realistically. So I'm right there with you. Dom said, damn, Voch went live. Got to go. I know Dom's a Cowboys fan. We appreciate you pulling up for a quick second, man. Kai is in the building one time. Valentino is in the building. Talking Eco is in the building. We got gang in the building, y'all. I appreciate all of y'all pulling up, rocking out with me, man. Let's get right to it, man. We're going to be talking about, is it time for the New York Giants to tank right now? And I definitely think it is. So let's talk about it, man. Let's start off with this first topic here, okay? The New York Giants don't have a franchise quarterback on the roster right now. And let me remove this real quick. And let's talk about the quarterbacks and the caliber of quarterbacks that we have on this roster after we just got blown out in a game versus the Dallas Cowboys for the second time, allowing 640 yards, 0 for 12 on third down. They had more points than we had yards in the first half. The Cowboys had 32 first downs. Giants only have 11 total offensive touchdowns on the year. In 2 games versus the Cowboys, the Giants were outscored 54-0 by the half. And a lot of that's got to do with the quarterback position. Let's keep it funky. I know the quarterback can't go out there and stop the Dallas Cowboys offense from putting up points on the board, but we got to call a spade a spade. This is very eerily similar to 2021 when you saw Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon getting snaps and the New York Giants offense couldn't get past the 50-yard line. And this has been a thing that's been going on for a decade now. 8 losing seasons since 2012 for the New York Giants. one season with 10 or more wins. That season came in 2016. The Cowboys have back-to-back 12-win seasons right now. They're probably going to get another double-digit win season. They're probably going to get 12 wins again this year. So we are not closing that gap right now. 2016 and 2022 are definitely some outlier seasons for the New York Giants right now. You got 4 head coaches since 2017. And with the caliber of quarterbacks that we have on the roster right now, it's very understandable why fans like me, who have never, ever, ever rooted for a tank ever, y'all. I'm literally sitting up here like looking at these games and I'm like, I see my man Cordell Flott get an interception and I can't even get that excited because this team is so bad and you know it's definitely going to lead to losses. And right now, I'm just looking forward towards the 2024 season. I'm hoping we could get one of these top 2 draft picks. I'm hoping we could get the number 1 draft pick. I'll keep it funky with y'all. I want to get our hand pick at the quarterback who's going to be the future for the New York Giants. I see Talking Egos in the building. He said, I genuinely agree. Franchise quarterbacks can go toe-to-toe with the best, regardless of the circumstances. They try to will the offense forward, and no one on the roster can do that. That's a fact. And I'm going to speak about some of these quarterbacks. Shout out to Real People. I see you in the building, fam. Tommy DeVito right now, 25 years old. He's an old undrafted rookie free agent right now. The first undrafted rookie free agent the New York Giants have ever started in the history of the franchise. He's clearly not the immediate answer, and he might not even be an answer in the future. Right now, he's got 260 yards on the season, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 3 games. He's got 1 start on the year. He's going to get his 2nd start against the Washington Commanders. Tommy DeVito does nothing great, and I'm going to speak about that a lot during this stream. I'm looking for a quarterback who has at least 1 skill set, 1 characteristic that is great that you could put toe-to-toe with some of the best quarterbacks in the league as soon as he gets in this league. You look at what C.J. Stroud is doing with the Houston Texans right now, and you cannot do anything except be a little bit jealous and a little bit envious of Houston Texans fans. Shout out to my homie Cernak Connection, who's a Texans fan, because they know they have their quarterback right now. Damian Jackson, I appreciate you pulling up with the $2 super chat one time. He says, why would Eli say that? I know, and you know, we're going to talk about this a little bit more because there's another former New York Giant, Carl Banks, who I got a lot of respect for, one of my mentors in this game, somebody I admire and look up to as far as a analyst in football, especially with the New York Giants, calling the play-by-plays for the New York Giants with Bob Papa doing a fantastic job at it. When you get guys who are former players like this that go out there and they vouch for a quarterback who we've seen now for 5 years, and we all know that the evaluation process is over. But when you get these former Giants vouching for them, the fan base is going to take those words, they're going to twist them in the wrong direction, and they're going to use that as bait, you know, to say that these are reasons why we should keep Daniel Jones as the future franchise quarterback for the New York Giants. So I don't know why Eli would say that. But Eli is a nice dude. I will say that. Eli is definitely a nice dude. Let me see what Kai's saying. Kai's saying, I think y'all should go Marvin Harrison Jr. and trade back into the first round and get Penix. That would be, like, I talked about this on the Bleacher Report stream, right? I would be okay with that. But I want to ensure that we get that real deal franchise quarterback. There are question marks with Michael Penix Jr. For me, the mechanics, the release, a little bit strange, to be honest. The injury history, the age coming into the draft. Penix is going to be, I believe, 24 years old. Franchise quarterbacks can get into their 30s, obviously, so it's not that big of a question mark for me, but more the injuries. He has battled through adversity. We're going to get to that. We're going to talk about Michael Penix Jr. as well and some of these other guys. Shout out to Juan for pulling up one time with the $5 super chat as well. He said, Eli can preach with a Bible on his hands, and it's irrelevant to me. It's ultimately Shane and Dable's decisions to either draft and develop one. I feel you on that, yup. But a lot of people are going to hold great emphasis to what Eli Manning says. I already seen people retweeting some of the stuff that Carl Banks said, you know, and they're like, maybe you guys can, like, you know, learn a thing or two from this guy. This guy knows football, and Carl Banks definitely knows football. And he's a guy that I admire, but we cannot forget that Carl Banks is in that building every day. There's a saying that when it comes to being a photographer even, right, there's macro view, right? There's 2 types of different lenses. A macro lens, you could get right up on something. Like you use a macro lens for wedding rings and stuff like that when you're shooting weddings. And you use a wide angle lens to be able to see the grand scheme. You use these for establishing shots, right? To show the landscape of what something is, the wide angle perspective. And sometimes I think that these people that are in the building, they're there every day. They get to see these players. They have relationships with these players. They're there at practice. They're watching these guys in the weight room and all these different things. I think that they have a one-up on us, right, because they're in the locker room. But also I think we have a one-up on them by being able to see the grand scheme and the wide angle of what it is to be a New York Giants fan and see this team. So I definitely agree with you on this one, Juan. I think both perspectives have, advantages to them as well. But I think, like, right now, when it comes to the quarterback position, we cannot be looking at this contract with Daniel Jones and be waiting until 2025 when Daniel Jones will be in his 7th season, y'all, and still be trying to evaluate a quarterback. So big shout out to Juan. Definitely appreciate you pulling up, man, and helping us fund this channel, man, because y'all know I do this for myself, but I do this for y'all just as much. As soon as we become family like people like Juan is, and y'all show up in these streams week in and week out, I could come up here and do an impromptu stream and still have people in the building. That's because of the family in the chat, man. So big shout out to y'all. I definitely appreciate that. Miz is in the building. Big shout out to Miz. What's going on, Miz? I hope your Wednesday afternoon is going well. Shout out to all of y'all that pulled up, man, and just rocking out with me on an impromptu stream. I told the Beard, I got off on the Bleacher Report stream. I was like, bro, I'm kind of hot, man. Like, I want to do another stream, man. Let's set this up and let's get this going. So let's get back to talking about some of these quarterbacks that are on the roster. You got Matt Barkley, 33 years old. We're probably going to see Matt Barkley get some snaps this year, drafted by the Eagles in the 4th round. He has, in his career right now, 11 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. So don't get it twisted. That's not a 2-to-1 ratio. That's a 1-to-2 ratio, which you definitely don't want to see out of no quarterback. He has 7 starts in his career. 6 of them came with the Chicago Bears in 2016. He had a 1-5 record of 59% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns and 14 interceptions that year. His QBR was 33.6. Matt Barkley is too old at 33 years old for me to look at him as anything being the future. He's not the future, even if he was of the age. We got, Jacob Eason on the roster, who we just signed from the Colts. I think he's on the practice squad right now. 4th rounder out of Washington. He's 25 years old. Has no starts in the NFL. He appeared in 2 games, and I thought this was laughable. His QBR in those 2 games was under 1. He has a QBR of 0.5 in 2 games. He's not the future. Tyrod Taylor has the capability to be a guy that could be a bridge, I feel like, but he's in his 13th season, coming off an injury to his ribs where he's going to be entering his 14th season. He's a 34-year-old quarterback, led Buffalo to a playoff berth in 2017. He's got 579 yards on the year with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Savvy veteran. I was rooting for Tyrod Taylor. The last time I was reeled in by this team was when Tyrod Taylor was out there playing football. Gave me a hope because I like change. When things are going wrong, I like to see some change. And Tyrod Taylor was a capable quarterback that brought that change. But we cannot deny that Tyrod Taylor cannot stay healthy. Every time he has touched the field, he's got hurt. And last but absolutely not least, we got Daniel Jones on the roster. 26 years old, drafted number 6 with the 6th overall pick in 2019. Tore his ACL against the Raiders. And yeah, the New York Giants have dealt with a ton of injuries this year, right? Shout out to John B in the building. I see you, fam. The Giants have had a bunch of injuries, right? But Daniel Jones regressed, even without those injuries. 7 turnovers on the year, 2 touchdowns, sacked 30 times. I don't even know how many games Daniel Jones played. I think he played in 6 games. So getting sacked 30 times in 6 games, that's absolutely ridiculous. In 60 games, in 5 years, Daniel Jones has 62 passing touchdowns and 64 turnovers. He's got more turnovers than he does passing touchdowns. Doesn't sound like a franchise quarterback to me. 40 interceptions. He's been injured in 4 out of his 5 seasons. Has had 15 or fewer passing touchdowns in all but 1 of his 5 years. He's never thrown for over 3,300 yards. Doesn't sound like a franchise quarterback to me. Jones is likely going to come into this next season and be injured entering the year. So the Giants, Brian Dable, Joe Shane, they got some things that they definitely got to iron out going into 2024 here. And I think that's why the tank is all that much more important, right? Like, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, man, Giants got to lose games, right? But there's not a lot to be looking forward to if you're a New York Giants fan, especially with the way that schedule looks. This stretch coming up was supposed to be the stretch of the New York Giants where we were going to be able to win some games and dig ourselves out of the hole that I knew we were going to be in after 8 weeks of football. I had the Giants sitting at 2-6 after 8 weeks of football on my prediction on the stat prediction and the record prediction show that we did in the summer in August. I figured that going up against teams like Seattle, Buffalo, San Francisco, the Dallas Cowboys, The Seattle Seahawks, if I didn't mention them, that was going to present a tough task for the New York Giants. So I didn't expect to win any of those games. I thought that those games were going to be L's. I thought that we'd go out there and we would beat the Raiders, be able to beat the Commanders, come out here this week against the Commanders, beat them, and then you have a stretch coming up against teams like the New England Patriots, the Green Bay Packers, the New Orleans Saints, the Los Angeles Rams. Those are games that are definitely you could see as a victory. So I had the Giants sitting at 8-9. But the way that the injuries have derailed our season now, I don't know if the New York Giants are going to be able to win another game this season. Now, another reason why, and shout out to Steven R. Steven R's been popping up for a lot of the streams lately, man. Big shout out to Steven one time in the building. He says, is there a path where the Giants decide to draft a quarterback in 2025 offseason when number 8 is officially gone? Use this offseason and draft to build the roster up so the roster is better come time to take a quarterback. So my thoughts on that are like this. If you do that, one, you can't guarantee that your quarterback is going to be there in the draft, right? And let me give you a perfect example. Kenny Pickett. When it came time for the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft their quarterback, that class did not present a lot of prospects for them to go out there and get their main guy as a franchise quarterback. And I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett won't be a franchise quarterback, but when your picks to get your franchise quarterback after you allow Ben Roethlisberger to go to retirement and whatnot, and you were not prepared by drafting a quarterback previous to that, you now had to pick your poison from Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. And that is not a great draft. This draft is full of talent. Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, Cam Ward, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, Shadur Sanders if he decides to come out. The kid from LSU, Jaden McDaniels. You got the kid in Florida State, Travis Jordan. There are so many quarterbacks in this draft that you could go out there and get. And there's guys I didn't name. The kid from Texas has been playing good ball. This is the class, I think, that you go out there and go get your quarterback. And shout out to Stan. I see Stan in the chat. He's the one who sent me the Eli Manning article right before I went on air. He says the 2025 quarterback class looks putrid right now. So I think you got to go out there and get your quarterback right now, this year. You got a class that's full of kids with talent. And not that kind of talent that's like, oh, this kid does everything average. He kind of checks the boxes. You have upper echelon talent right now. John B says, bring back Tyrod and draft Jaden Daniels. I like Jaden Daniels. I think he's a great prospect right now. I don't know how much of his game will translate to the NFL. So I've seen a bunch of, highlights and some of his games on Saturdays and whatnot. I want to go dig in and see what's wrong with him. I really want to see what's wrong. He's a good runner. He obviously showed you last week he can break the big play. Stephen R says, and I'll answer these couple questions and we'll get back on track here. But Stephen R says, but what stat line does Caleb or Drake Maye have for them to be a franchise guy? Because we could still be drafting top 5, even taking a quarterback top 5 like the Panthers did, but they're away, just saying. So I'm gonna give you some, when we get to talking about this draft class, which I'm about to get into, I'm gonna give you some stats of why Caleb Williams could definitely be a franchise guy. I even got better stats to back up Drake Maye. And I know that these are college statistics, but these guys look like they're going to be able to translate to the NFL. Caleb Williams I heard Dan Schneider say this on his podcast the other day, and big shout out to Dan and big shout out to Nick Foletto. They got some great content over there. And no one said this. I ain't heard nobody say this yet. Caleb Williams' release looks a lot like Aaron Rodgers. Flick is gone. We definitely going to get to talking about that. Shout out to all of y'all in the building, man. I appreciate y'all pulling up. Let me just make sure. Okay, I got Irish Rover one time with the $5 super chat, man. Big shout out to Irish Rover, man. I'm glad you could make a stream, man. I've been seeing you around a bunch, yo. Irish Rover says, I am for drafting a quarterback. We don't need to tank. The team we have right now will get us a number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the 2024 draft. Love your content, bro. That's spot on right now. We don't need to tank. This team is bad enough. This team is injured enough right now where they're not going to have to go out there and put the effort out there to tank. And to me, the tanking thing is a philosophy that comes from the front office down, right? Coaches are not going to go out there and necessarily coach a bad game on purpose to tank. But really, it comes from the front office. When they're fielding players out there and not going out there and signing the proper quarterback specifically to be able to give you a shot to win games. I think that a guy like even Cam Newton, fresh off doing podcasts right now, could come off the streets and give you a better chance to win games than Tommy DeVito. Tell me if I'm tripping in the chat. But that's how I see it. Shout out to Irish Rover, man. Appreciate you supporting the channel, man. That goes a long, long way, man. I've been putting my foot in this content stuff the last couple of weeks. I literally been streaming like 6 days a week, And I was like, man, this is a good one that, we could really talk about the quarterback situation. We could really do that. And I did it on Bleacher Report, had a bunch of notes. And shout out to the homie Alex from Bleacher Report, man. He got me the topic early in the middle of the night last night for me to stay up a little bit late and do some more research to kind of make this full circle and get this in the right direction. Let me see. John B says, bro, watch his games. He's the best quarterback in the draft. Arm talent, very good. IQ. Caleb Williams only makes plays on the move. He has been losing his games by himself. Oh, I agree with everything you're saying except Caleb Williams losing his games by himself. Have you watched that defense? That defense is pathetic. But yeah, I definitely agree with everything you're saying, John B, as far as Jaden Daniels goes. He looks to be a really good prospect. And I think he could be a guy that could fix the situation here in New York. And I think he possesses a lot of the same skill sets that Caleb Williams brings to the table. So I like both those quarterbacks. For me, I don't want a quarterback that's a pure pocket passer. I want a guy that can do it all. Mobile, can throw on the run, keeps his eyes down the field, lateral movement in the pocket manipulation, anticipation. I want all those things out of my quarterback. Big arm, quick release, great mechanics, upper body mechanics, all of that. I want it all. But that's a good point you make right there, John B. Shout out to you, man, because that's definitely some good stuff you bring to the table here. All right, so let's talk about this particular draft class coming in. And this is another reason why the tank should be on for the New York Giants. And I'm not saying, hey, go out there and field a team that's going to, be pathetic and lose games out there. But these are things that are beneficial to the New York Giants losing games. The 2024 draft class is full of talent at the quarterback position right now. And let's talk about them, right? Drake Maye right now, sophomore at UNC. The dude is prototype quarterback build, okay? A lot of people got this guy number 1 on their draft boards early on. 6'4", 230 pounds, 21 years old. He was the ACC Player of the Year in 2022. In 2023, thus far, he's got 2,803 yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. His QBR is 79.6. The kid knows how to take care of the ball. That's the one thing I really like about him, but he's not scared to throw the ball in the tight windows and take chances. 2022 was a phenomenal year for this kid. 4,321 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions in 2 seasons. He has 13 games with multiple passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. And for all of y'all that are familiar with what I do over here, y'all know I've been talking about the Daniel Jones statistic that is very alarming that I've been talking about now for about a good season and a half. 39 straight games for Daniel Jones in the regular season where he does not have back-to-back games with multiple passing touchdowns. You're looking at a kid in Drake Maye who has 3 games in 2022 with 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. He has 4 games this season with multiple passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. When I bring up the Daniel Jones statistic, I'm not talking about putting up 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. I'm just talking about putting up 2 touchdowns, which any franchise quarterback in the NFL should be able to do. We've seen it from Sam Howell this year, right? We've seen it from C.J. Stroud this year, who's having a phenomenal year. And shout out to the homie Mace, Real Mace Black on Twitter. He the first person I saw say this. He said, if your quarterback is not as good as Kirk Cousins, he's not a franchise quarterback. I'm right there with him on that. You got to be at least Dak Prescott good, at least Kirk Cousins good. And I think Drake Maye is going to come into this league, and he's going to be that. Big arm, can make all the throws, mobile enough, good lateral movement. He looks like Justin Herbert to me. He's still got that baby face like a Justin Herbert, and the body build is very much like Justin Herbert. And to me, my number 1 prospect, right? My number 1 prospect is Caleb Williams right now. Now, that might change because I'm going off what I see on Saturdays, the little bit of tape that I've looked at and got to look at during the season, which is not much. But when I do get the deep dive on these quarterbacks and really get to look at the all-22, I'm waiting on JT O'Sullivan to get in his bag for his quarterback content because last year he did a phenomenal job, man, breaking down all the quarterbacks coming into that draft, Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and all the others, right? He would do hour-long streams where he's breaking down all 22. And I really trust his opinion. I've learned so much from JT O'Sullivan, so I trust his opinion. But Caleb Williams is not the prototype quarterback as far as the build goes. And I think that's the one knock that a lot of people have on Caleb Williams. He's listed at 6'1". I'm 6'1". I don't think Caleb Williams is 6'1". I think he's more like 6 foot. 215 pounds, 21 years old. He won the Heisman in 2022. He holds the USC single-season records for total offense with 4,919 yards. That was last year. The most total touchdowns with 52 total touchdowns. Most passing yards gained with 4,537, and the most touchdowns through the air with 42. In 3 seasons, the dude has 91 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Now, I'm sure you've seen the knock on Caleb Williams is he can't take care of the ball because he does lead the FBS in fumbles. The one number that I haven't seen going around is how many of those fumbles that he lost. And maybe somebody in the chat could bring that to my attention. Because I don't know. I don't know how many fumbles he's lost. When I watch him on Saturdays, he's not losing a lot of fumbles. Shout out to Juan one time in the building again, man, for the $5 super chat. He says teams with good lines don't necessarily pick high in the draft. There's no guarantee we can find a Caleb or Maye in future drafts. Get one of these two. I can't agree with you more, man. And I'm going to double down on a lot of these points during this stream. I'm going to try to keep this stream to about 45 minutes because I want it to have really good replay value for people that rewatch this. And for those of y'all that got to this point, when you're replaying this, go ahead and throw a bicep in the chat one time. But Juan, you definitely dropping some gems right now. Me and you, we seeing eye to eye right now. Big salute to you, bro. Let me see. Dubman says, has he started talking about Drake Maye yet? We talked about Drake Maye just a little bit, probably right before you pulled up, man. Shout out to Dubman. He's been here for the last couple of streams. Appreciate you pulling up, my guy. So, in 3 seasons, for your boy Caleb Williams, 91 touchdowns, man, 13 interceptions. That's clean football right there. We got to look into these fumbles. Dubman, while you here, I know you good with the stats. Let me know if you seen anything about Caleb Williams' fumbles. Because I know he had over 30-something fumbles, and it led the FBS since he's been a starting quarterback. How many of those are lost fumbles? That's what I really want to know because, you know, Daniel Jones, rookie year, 2019, 19 fumbles lost, 19 fumbles, 11 of them were lost. 6 of them scoop and score touchdowns basically for the other team. We know about Justin Fields last season who had a ton of fumbles, right? But he did not lose a lot of those fumbles. Lost fumbles is so much more important to me than just fumbling the ball. Granted, fumbling the ball is not a good thing. But in 3 seasons, we talking about Caleb Williams with the 91. This year, he's got 29 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions, 3,249 yards already. And they've been knocked out of, you know, #1 bowl contention, and they're not going to be able to win. They're just not going to get back to a #1 seed. They have lost so many games. It started with the loss to Notre Dame, and it just went downhill from there. And they just cannot, you know, win those games against ranked opponents. Caleb Williams is now 4-8 against ranked opponents in his career. Shout out to Rozelle, man. I see you. What's going on, Rozelle? And Kai says, Lord, please don't let these Giants get Caleb. I'm right there with you, man. And Kai, shout out to you for pulling up to the spaces the other day. That was an interesting space to pull up in and try to be a speaker on because they was wilding in there for sure. Now, Michael Penix Jr., who I would totally be okay with. Somebody suggested this earlier in the stream. Go out there and get Marvin Harrison Jr. with the first pick that we have and then try to trade back into the first round or maybe early in the second round, you go out there and you get Michael Penix Jr. He's a senior right now, 6'3", 216 pounds. He led the FBS in passing yards in 2022, averaging 357 yards per game. This year, he's got a 69% completion percentage, 3,201 yards, 28 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. You see the common theme with all these quarterbacks? They're not throwing a lot of interceptions. Michael Penix, extremely accurate. Battled through a bunch of adversity already. 2 knee injuries. Tore his ACL twice. Once in 2018, once in 2020. Separated his shoulder in 2021. Battled back to be having a great season. He's probably the #1 candidate right now for the Heisman Trophy. He turns 24 in May. So when you start the 2024 season, Michael Penix Jr. is going to be 24 years old. That does not bother me that much. I think Michael Penix could dive in there and be a day 1 starter for the New York Giants. There's a bunch of quarterbacks out here, y'all. Yo, Sal, if you want, after I kind of run down through this a little bit, if you want to pull up for this stream, Sal, you can pull up. DM me real quick so you are at the top of my my Twitter DMs, and I'll send you the link because Sal is one of the most knowledgeable minds. I would love to pick Sal's mind for like a good 15 minutes towards the end of this stream. I think that'll bring great value to y'all as viewers. And I also think it'll bring a lot of attention to what Sal is doing with his YouTube channel called He's a Giant. They're breaking down film already for college players And him and Monty, to me, are the most knowledgeable people right now in the Giants community when it comes to college-based, scouting. I think they're the best at what they do here. Shout out to the Illas in the building. Yo, bro, you got the best, predicting the future type of video, bro. Put the link for that video in the comment section for me, bro, because I remember going back and seeing that video and then reading your name and being like, yo, I saw the Illa in a lot of my streams. I did not know he was making content. Y'all have got to see this video where he pretty much damn near predicted the future for the New York Giants. It's a great video, man, where you were talking about Joe Shane, Brian Dable, all of that. Please put that link in the description or in the comments for people to check out. That's a great video. And y'all go show some love to the Illa, man. Dude is on his grind right now. He will literally take time off work to go speak and do his Giants content, from right outside of job sites and all of that stuff, yo. Definitely go check him out. And Sal, I'm about to send you the link right now. And just pull up. Yeah, pull up. You can hang around for another, I'm going to probably get through this in 15 minutes. You can pull up. And then after that, we'll bring you on the show and whatnot. Hang with me, y'all. I'm just going to send Sal this DM real quick so we can get him up here, man, because Sal's going to bring some great information to the table about these prospects coming out. And who knows, we might end up, I wanted this stream to be 45 minutes, but we might have to go longer because it's all about value. It's all about value here, and I know Sal's going to bring a ton of value when he pulls up. So we talked about some of the other guys as well. I'm not too mad at the thinking of, bringing in Marvin Harrison Jr. There are a bunch of wide receivers in this draft. I like Malik Neighbors. I like Xavier Worthy. I like Keon Coleman. These guys are definitely ballers. You could find a way to bring in one of these other quarterbacks and pair them with these wide receivers. Whatever you do, just maximize the value with the quarterback position. And also, you're going to have to find a way to bring in some offensive linemen. Now, I want to show y'all a chart that I had made just last season, right? And this was every first-round quarterback drafted from 2011 to now, right? And just take a look at all these quarterbacks here. Really absorb this chart, right? While I give y'all a little bit of game on this. You definitely have better odds drafting a quarterback in the first round, okay? This list does not have the 2023 class on it because the verdict is yet to be determined on them. But you had Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson all go in the first round. And Hendon Hooker went in the third round, I believe, as well. I'm keeping my eyes on him as well. Now, C.J. Stroud is the guy who is the anomaly of the latest class. 9 games, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2,626 yards. That's with 6 Houston Texans linemen being placed on IR during this season. C.J. Stroud has been sacked just 19 times in 9 games. He's on pace to be sacked more than Davis Mills was sacked last year in this same offense. I can't say the same offense. They got new coaching, new coordinators over there. But Davis Mills was sacked 31 times in 15 games. So really a similar pace there. But Stroud is a difference maker, along with head coach DeMeco Ryans, especially when your offensive line is banged up like that. Now look at this graphic and let's go through it. 2021, I'm going to go through some of the hits on this chart. You got Trevor Lawrence. 2020, you got Burrow, Tua, Herbert. 2019, you got Kyler Murray. You could possibly say Daniel Jones is not a hit, not a bust, somewhere between that. 2018, you got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. 2017, you got Pat Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. 2016, you got Jared Goff, and you got Carson Wentz with an asterisk. That's what I said to my folks on Bleacher Report. I said, when you drafted him, it was a hit. He played well. He was playing MVP-like football. Then he got the knee injury, and everything went downhill from that point on. 2015, 2014, 2013, you got no hits. 2012, you got Andrew Luck, probably the biggest hit in the past decade. And you got RG3, who I think was a hit similar to how Carson Wentz was before his injury. He brought, a division title to the Washington football team. They were known as the Redskins. Now they're the Commanders. And I thought he had them on the up and up, took them to the playoffs and whatnot, and he played some good football. And then in 2011, you got Cam Newton. That's 14 quarterbacks that you could say are hits in the last decade. There are 38 quarterbacks on this list. That's a 36.8% chance. It's not great odds, but I will absolutely take those odds 100%. Now, Carl Banks came out earlier, or actually yesterday, and he tweeted this out. And this kind of piggybacks on what Eli Manning was saying, showing support for the quarterback a little bit. But I do think that people took what Carl Banks said out of context a little bit. He said, without a competent offensive line, the next quarterback will suck, and the next one, and the next one. Now, there's some validity to that, right? Because we know without an offensive line, your quarterback's definitely going to have a tougher task at trying to play high caliber football, right? But at the same time, we've seen guys like C.J. Stroud with what I just listed, 6 linemen on IR going out here playing MVP-like football. You could argue that C.J. Stroud is in the front of the race for MVP right now. You really could argue that. The dude is playing fantastic football. You got Joe Burrow, who, when they went to the Super Bowl, had one of the worst offensive lines out there, the 31st ranked offensive line, according to PFF. He got sacked 9 times in a playoff game and still found a way to make it to the Super Bowl. So there are anomalies, and there are quarterbacks that are going to be able to overcome circumstances that are similar to what Daniel Jones was put into as a New York Giant, because we cannot say that the New York Giants set up Daniel Jones to succeed. We cannot say that, because that would not be the truth. They waited to put wide receiver talent around him until his 3rd year in the league. His 1st year in the league, they traded away his best weapon right before he got to camp. They traded away Odell Beckham Jr. They brought in Golden Tate. They drafted a 5th-round wide receiver in Darius Slayton. And they waited until they brought in Kenny Golladay, John Ross, Kadarius Toney, Kyle Rudolph, to then try to build around a quarterback who literally had 1 year left on his contract and a 5th-year option. So to me, it was also a test for Daniel Jones. Could he battle through this adversity and still show you that he was a franchise quarterback? And for me, after the evaluation, I don't think he did. Now, shout out to the homie J Tech one time. I got to get to this super chat. Big salute to you, fam. I appreciate you supporting the channel. J Tech says, if we take a quarterback, should we trade back to the first for someone like Oduze? I mean, you could do that, but I think with everything I just broke down, I'm glad I waited to break down those quarterbacks and how you can hit in the first round and then bringing up your super chat here, because you totally could do that, right? But at the same time, your odds are going to be higher if you go out there and you draft your quarterback in the first round. I'm not trying to fall victim to what we did when we drafted a guy like Davis Webb, where you wait till the later rounds to draft a guy who has average skill set across the board. And there were people out there that were extremely high on Davis Webb, saying he could be better than some quarterbacks that you're seeing be franchise guys right now for organizations. So for me, if they get the quarterback in the late first round, early second round, I'm not going to lose it, right? But my thinking is I would totally like to get one of these top 2 quarterbacks. I got my eyes set on Drake Maye and Caleb Williams right now. Michael Penix Jr. could be a runner-up prize that I think would be a great runner-up prize. But at the same time, I really want to go out here and just like, when's the last time the New York Giants solidified going after the top guy in the draft? It was 2004 with Eli Manning. And without the way that the New York Giants played the year before in 2003 and falling all the way down to the 4th pick, they probably would not have had a chance to go out there and trade for Eli Manning and get that number 1 draft pick. So for me, I want to go get a top guy. We got a top guy in 2004. He got us 2 Super Bowls. We went out here and reached on a quarterback in 2019, and 5 years later, we're questioning if this guy is the franchise quarterback. Big shout out to J Tech, man. I appreciate that super chat, man. That goes a long way, you already know, to support this channel. So with that chart, your odds give you about a 36.8 chance, right? Now, Carl Banks tweets this out, and it was a quote tweet response to a dude named @DannyThomas73129. And that dude said, Daniel Jones is not it, man, in response to Carl Banks. And he posted a Photoshop picture of Drake Maye in a New York Giants uniform, right? And I agree with what Carl Banks is saying to an extent, right? But this kind of tweet during this timing frustrates me, because fans are going to use this as ammo to say, oh, well, you guys don't know what y'all are talking about. Look what we're getting from a former player. When Eli Manning comes out and he says, this season's kind of an anomaly for Daniel Jones, and wait till he gets healthy, and you don't commit to guys like Saquon Barkley, Dexter Lawrence, and Daniel Jones, and just throw, that game plan out the window. You got to keep adding guys around them, as Eli Manning said. I think that gives fans fuel in a losing argument, because it is clear as day for me right now that the New York Giants need to go out there and draft a quarterback in the first round. Not just draft a quarterback in the first round. Now, you cannot go out here and ignore the most important position. You don't wait until everything is perfect to go out there and then draft your quarterback. Look at how that's working for teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have hella talent around Kenny Pickett. When you look at that wide receiver core over there, they spent, okay, they got Deontay Johnson. They spent draft capital on George Pickens. They had Chase Claypool over there, who, yeah, that didn't work out. But those are 3 good weapons. Then they spent first-round draft capital, I believe, on Freiermuth. They got Najee Harris in the backfield. I forget where he was drafted. But that's a great young core around the quarterback. But when they wanted to go draft a quarterback, all you could go out there and get was Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. I think they would have done themselves a service by going with the bridge quarterback like a Jacoby Brissett, which they tried to do, though, so I can't fault them. They tried to bring in Mitchell Trubisky, and Mitch is just kind of cooked. That's just what it is. Mitch is just cooked. So timing is so pivotal to what happens when it's time to draft your quarterback. Now, I wanted to bring up another tweet from a fellow Giants content creator, Mike Too Nice. And I love that he said this. It takes guts to go out here and say stuff like this because you know the fan base is not going to like this. This tweet, when I looked at it, it had like 20 likes on it, but it is so facts, okay? Mike Too Nice says the people who were begging the Giants to give in to Daniel Jones's contract demands 8 months ago are now the same people saying our O-line is not good enough to draft a quarterback. And I said this on the Bleacher Report stream, right? Have the balls, just have the day balls to go out there and say, I don't want to draft a quarterback this year. Don't go out here trying to knock these young 21-year-olds, 24-year-olds in Michael Penix's case, saying, oh, you know, I watched him this past weekend and that guy's not good. You don't even take the time to study these guys' tape or none of that stuff. You literally watch one game where the guy underperforms and go, he's not it. And you're using that as a way to vouch for the quarterback that is on the roster right now. I think that is low. I think that is pathetic. I think that's about as pathetic as what the New York Giants have fielded out there on the field this year and sitting at 2-8. Why not just like stand on it, 10 toes down, and just say, look, I want Daniel Jones to succeed in this offense and I want him to win. And just stick with that rather than trying to tiptoe around it and be like, oh, you know, the next quarterback's going to fail in here too. You know, the analogy that I've been making lately on Twitter is what y'all are doing is essentially saying you're in the stands at a basketball game, call it the New York Knicks game, right? You're in the stands and they call on your seat number to come down and shoot a shot from half court to win $100K. And you say, I'm scared to shoot my shot. I don't want to be embarrassed in front of all these people and airball the shot and be a meme on YouTube and all that stuff. So I'm not going to shoot my shot. You'd be a damn fool to not go out there and shoot that shot from half court and possibly get about $100K or whatever it may be and change your life on that. You will be a damn fool. So I've been using that analogy because right now the New York Giants are in prime position and poised to get one of these top picks. You will be a fool to draft out of it or to go out there or to trade out of it or to go out there and not spend that on the most important position in football. I think that would be an egregious mistake. And shout out to Mike Too Nice for, you know, bringing this to my attention and wording the tweet so perfectly. Because if you try to build the whole team around it, around the quarterback, and then when you go to draft your quarterback, what if you get a draft class like 2014 where it's Blake Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater, and Johnny Manziel in the first round, and you waste your first-round draft pick on that? Or you go in a draft and E.J. Manuel's the only option as a first-round draft pick, or Kenny Pickett. The fan base is going to be in the same position and being angry with the players aging when you don't have the quarterback on the roster. Thank God for the San Francisco 49ers who made an egregious mistake by drafting Trey Lance, in my opinion, because that roster was ready to win now. And they went out there and they spent all that draft capital, 2 first rounds, and traded their first rounders. So 3 first rounders for a project quarterback who did not have experience on the collegiate level. It was a big, big mistake. My man Diggy said this on his stream earlier today. He said, would you rather have an elite offensive line with an average quarterback, or would you rather have an elite quarterback with an average offensive line? I'm taking the average offensive line and the elite quarterback 100 times out of 100. And I think at this point in time, all Giants fans know that Daniel Jones is not an elite quarterback. And the talent on this offensive line is not as bad as everybody makes it out to seem. The injuries is what really derailed our season, y'all. You had injuries to Andrew Thomas, JMS, Ben Bredesen, Evan Neal, Joshua Ezedu, Saquon Barkley dealing with injuries. Darren Waller dealing with injuries. Okay? Tyrod Taylor comes in, he gets hurt. But even when this team was healthy, Daniel Jones regressed. When they gave him the keys and said, hey, this is a big boy offense, we want you to run it, he couldn't run it. And Tyrod Taylor came in here and showed you that he was more capable of running this offense in this particular season than Daniel Jones was. We have a bookend left tackle in Andrew Thomas. Not many teams out there have a bookend left tackle and are struggling with their offensive line play. That's a fact, y'all. And now you got to deal with this Daniel Jones contract. And I'm going to run through this contract for about a good 10 more minutes, and I'm going to bring Sal up here. I see Sal's backstage now. And let's talk about this contract real quick. It's so funny because, like, Bleacher Report's the back end of their stream is like a little bit different. It's similar to StreamYard, but it's a little bit different. So I'm reaching to the wrong place. Like my muscle memory is like still on Bleacher Report time right now. But let's talk about it. Another reason for tanking here is to be prepared when you get out of the Daniel Jones contract. Now, Daniel Jones signed $160 million contract, $92 million guaranteed. I still can't wrap my mind around that. I just don't understand how they gave him $92 million guaranteed. Cap hit is $47.1 million in 2024. The dead cap hit is $69 million. So for those of y'all that don't know, the cap hit means if he's on the roster, you're going to owe him $47.1 million. Dead cap hit is if he's not on the roster and you decide to cut him, he's going to be owed. It's going to cost the Giants $69 million. And he may not even be ready to start the 2024 season with the ACL injury. In 2025, this is why Joe Schoen drafted the contract up the way that he did, is so that they had a 2-year out. And by 2025, the cap hit, meaning if he's on the roster, will be $41.6 million. And the dead cap hit, if you cut him, is just $22 million. So if Daniel Jones is not thriving in 2025, it's actually a benefit if you cut him. You will end up saving $20 million if you cut Daniel Jones before the 2025 season. In 2026, the cap hit's $58.6 million. The dead cap hit is $11.1 million. So if he's still on the roster by 2026, they definitely got to cut him unless he's playing MVP-like football before the season starts. Now, most of the fan base is sold on drafting one of the 2 top prospects, but not everyone is sold on that. And I find it very puzzling. And I just want those people to just come out and just say, I'm riding with Daniel Jones. I'm loyal to Daniel Jones over the success of the New York Giants moving forward. You got to find a way to be ready for the 2024 season here. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be ready for that. Now, Ralph Vacciano released an article on Fox Sports just yesterday, I believe it was. If not yesterday, it was 2 days ago. He said, while taking Caleb Williams or Drake Maye with one of the top 2 draft picks might seem like a no-brainer for the 2-8 Giants right now, it's far from guaranteed that the Giants would actually do it. According to multiple sources, including a source inside the Giants facility, some key people, that to me, that's a key point that he's saying right there. Some key people in the organization still have faith in Daniel Jones and believe their 26-year-old franchise quarterback can still be the long-term answer. To me, that screams John Mara is probably one of those key people. I want John Mara to come out and just say, look, my hands are clean. This is all on Joe Schoen. I've given them the keys to do what they want to do. And as our general manager, I trust Joe Schoen because I trust Joe Schoen. I trust him to make the right moves and get us in the right position to get the right quarterback. But is that going to happen? We do not know. And the last graphic I just want to show y'all before I bring Sal up here, and let me see if I could pull this from the last stream we did, is the Giants' remaining schedule. Because whether you like it or not, the Giants starting Tommy DeVito and committing to Tommy DeVito and telling you that for the foreseeable future, Tommy DeVito is going to be the quarterback and not trying to address bringing in any type of quarterback to come out here and win games and salvage the New York Giants 2023 season. They're telling you without telling you that they're tanking. So when you see Tyrod Taylor get back healthy and get back off IR in 3 more weeks, if they still roll with Tommy DeVito, that will be a spit in the face to the New York Giants fan base. These next 7 games look like this. You got Washington. I'm chalking that up as an L. The Patriots is a possible. Green Bay Packers, possible. Saints, possible. Philadelphia Eagles, that's going to be an L. The Los Angeles Rams, I'm looking at that as an L. The next game against the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm looking at that as an L. So at best case scenario right now, the New York Giants probably have 3 more wins on this schedule, if you ask me. And that would put them at 5-12 to finish the year. Worst case scenario, they don't win another game. And they finish at 2-11 and 15, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. When I said it out loud on the stream yesterday, me and the Beard were just like, wow, I don't even think there's been a team to go 2-15. So this is what we have to look forward to as New York Giants fans, which is it's an uncomfortable feeling. It's really an uncomfortable feeling. And I'm going to try to keep this season interesting for y'all as much as I can throughout the rest of these 7 games and throughout the playoffs. Y'all know we're going to be covering the playoffs as well. But it's absolutely going to be difficult. We all know it's going to be absolutely difficult. And I see y'all, shout out to Dubman. He says, it's sad because we're really about to F up our pick by beating the Commanders and the Pats. Now, I know that the Giants have owned the Commanders, right, in the past. But I don't see us beating the Commanders this weekend. I'm going to be at that game. I don't see any way with Sam Howell and the way that offense has been moving the ball, averaging 22 points per game, that the Giants go out there and lose. And or the Giants go out there and win that game. I don't see it. So I do think that the Patriots present, a window for us to get a W because they look really bad. They look worse than the Commanders do. And the Packers have not been playing good football, but I think the philosophy of the Green Bay Packers and just their approach on offense is going to be enough to be able to beat the Giants. So I'm looking at 5 as the ceiling, and I'm looking at no more wins for the rest of the season as the floor. I'll wait for Sal to get ready over there. I see him backstage and whatnot, and we'll bring him up here. I know Sal's a busy man. Sal's a doctor, man. He be out here getting to the bag. He runs his own business like I do. Sal is one of the most knowledgeable content creators I know, and he's only been creating content for like 4 months, if that. I don't even know if he's been creating content for that long. And his profile used to say Sal, not a content creator, but I don't know if he removed that from his profile. But y'all, if y'all can, throw some biceps in the chat one time for my guy Sal, man. Sal, what's popping, man? How you living, my brother?
I'm good. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I was on Bleacher Report talking about this quarterback situation and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I figured I would just go live, man, and kind of give, some of my fan base and some of my fam in the chat some of the, similar kind of takes that I was given on the Bleacher Report stream and whatnot. But, now that we got you here, right, give me your take on just the New York Giants season thus far and what you think the right moves are. And also, give me a little bit of backstory, a little back history on what was your approach coming into the year, because I know me and you saw eye to eye on Daniel Jones' contract, but we didn't see eye to eye on what to do with Saquon Barkley. So just give me a little bit of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to the original, when the season ended, I think we were on the same page in terms of the conclusions we drew from last year. We both thought it was nice, it was fun, but there was no way we wanted to run it back, meaning commit to Daniel Jones. I was of the mindset that you kind of want to rip the bandage right off and let go of the original core. I'm still kind of that mindset, that. And that involved not just Daniel Jones, but Saquon Barkley, Darius Slayton, the whole batch that's been here for 4 or 5 years. And I wanted them to start over. Although I completely understand the perspective. Like, it's hard to do that. Like, when you come off a playoff victory, especially the way they did it, they got to the second round. It is hard to then sell to your fan base. You've been just dog shit forever. Now we're going to get rid of those key players. I understand why they did what they did. But my hope was that they would see through what I thought was some fortuitous, bounces their way last year and maybe non-replicable results. Once they signed Jones and tagged Barkley, I think my approach was, all right, well, they're telling us they're ready to compete, right? They're saying, screw this rebuild. We're chucking this thing. We're going for it because we're bringing back a core of veterans at this point, paying them a lot of money. And so I think that sets up expectations. So my view going into this was you got to have expectations for this team. If you're going to pay all this money and rip through cap space and bring back the quarterback specifically, you got to have expectations. And, I think you and I had disagreements on how they would go about it. But at the end of the summer, we kind of landed in similar places that we thought like a prediction for Jones in terms of what was expected would be I forgot what the numbers were, but it was like 3,700 passing yards, something like that, right? And like 23 touchdowns, something like that, passing. We thought that was reasonable. Like, he could do that with some improved weapons, and that should be where he lands. Of course, it hasn't worked out. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. It's been bad. Injury, production. Even before he got injured, he was just bad. I think that injuries are masking in the minds of certainly people in the, all these stories that are coming out today that I'm catching up on now because I finished my workday. I feel like the injuries that happened to Jones are masking the production he was putting on the field, because let's not forget, before the dude got hurt, he was playing terrible football. He was the worst quarterback in the NFL. I mean, I think pretty clearly he was the worst quarterback in the NFL, and I think that correlated with them putting more on his plate. They said, hey, you know what? We paid you, run a complete passing offense. And I remember you and I had this discussion. Like I said, they're going to probably try to open this up and have a more pass-heavy offense. And you're like, that's crazy. He can't do that. We got Saquon Barkley. We're going to run the damn ball, right? And I said, I think they're going to open it up. And then I was like, oh, maybe you're right. They're going to be wise about it. But nope, they opened it up and they said, Daniel Jones, here's the ball. You got the money, pass the ball, run a passing offense. He couldn't do it. He fell apart. The more he threw, the worse it got. Then he got hurt. Here's where we are. So I think where we are right now is, I think we have pretty clear knowledge that this team cannot function going forward with the current quarterback situation. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Let's leave Barkley aside because I feel like that situation sometimes muddies the water. At this point, like
I feel you.
It's almost irrelevant, you know. Like no disrespect to Saquon, but I feel like what happens to him at this point going forward for this organization is irrelevant to their future. Like if he's here, he's not here. It's almost like if he's here, cool, he's a good player. If he's not here, they're moving on, they're rebuilding. I don't think that's going to be essential one way or another. And I don't want that to take away from the big discussion, which is they need to rebuild and that starts with the quarterback. They're in position right now. What are they? They're sitting at the second pick right now as it stands.
Yeah, and they have the number one odds to get the number one pick right now too.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to look at the schedule. Just like you said, I heard you saying it. I don't see more than another one, maybe 2 wins left on the schedule at best.
Right.
I don't, and I'll be surprised. I think if you ask me, like gun to my head, where do I think this is landing? I'm going to say the most likely outcome is 2-15. I really don't see wins left on this schedule.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. I don't see many wins.
Yeah, maybe they get to 3. I think one way or another, when you look at who they're competing with for, if you want to call it that, for the top spots, you got the Bears. Justin Fields just came back. That man is fighting either for his current job, which he may not be able to retain, or his future job. I'd be surprised if the Bears didn't grab a couple of wins here. So let's take their pick out of the way. I don't think they're going to be in the top 2. You got the Panthers, who the Bears own that pick, right? Mm-hmm. Now I think we talked about this in space last night. Like I always believe like a good rookie quarterback can find a win or 2 late in the season, but man, you watch Bryce Young right now. He looks lost. He looks like the game
too.
Yeah. I mean, I used the term, I think you agreed last night. It looks like the game is moving too fast for him right now.
Yeah.
Like he's a step slow. He's college slow. And he can fix that. Is he going to fix that by the end of this year? I don't know. Then you have New England. And then you have Arizona. With Kyler back, I think Arizona is going to find themselves right out of the mix for the top pick. Sure. I really do.
Played really well this past week too.
Right off injury, right? Played great. And Kyler is kind of like Justin Fields. Like he doesn't know what his future is. Is he going to be in Arizona or not? He's fighting for his future. So I think he's going to find wins for them. What this comes down to me is like those 3 teams, the Bears because of the Panthers pick, the Giants, and the Patriots. So there's like if you look at it that way, there's about a 67-70% chance the Giants land with the top 2 pick. That's how I'm looking at it, right? Barring something crazy happening. Assuming that's the case and they land in the top 2, the top 2 quarterbacks in this class, I don't like to use the word generational because I think that gets overblown, but they're special. These are special players. Drake Maye and Caleb Williams, not in that order necessarily, but those 2 players are special prospects for different reasons. If the Giants are in a top 2 position and don't take one of those 2, they're sending a signal to their fan base that they no longer prioritize winning. That's the conclusion I would reach, honestly. You can't sit at a top 2 position for a top-end quarterback, even if Daniel Jones had a good year, right? Like, let's be honest. He doesn't have top-end projection. Like, at best, Daniel Jones is I think you use the term like a kind of a high-end game manager with legs, right? That's his peak. His peak is a guy that some years will flirt with top 10. Most years will probably be like in that 12 to 17 territory in terms of quarterback production overall. And I'm including rushing production for those who want to, go to that discussion. But that's his peak. This guy's never going to peak at like a top 3 quarterback level. He doesn't have that upside.
Do you think that if Daniel Jones would have had a successful season, that the Giants could have completely ruled out drafting a quarterback at all this year?
Not completely, because I think that the quarterback class is very strong. It's high end and it's deep. So I think with Tyrod Taylor being the only quarterback on the roster right now, Tyrod's getting older. You don't have one on the roster for next year other than Tommy DeVito, who you can't count on that guy to be your backup. At minimum, you would have drafted a developmental quarterback. And that's where I thought we were going when the season started. I thought we'd land around like somewhere between 7 and 10 wins. I really thought we were going to land somewhere in there.
Yeah, I had
I figured, like we're going to be somewhere between like drafting anywhere from like 15 to 20, something like that, probably out of the realm of taking a quarterback right away have another year on Jones. You're just going to keep building the roster, see how he does. You could take a developmental quarterback on day 2. So I thought they were going to take one anyway. They don't have that luxury anymore. I think they, number one, they have information now that Jones cannot operate a higher caliber of offense. He just can't. He made that clear. And he's not healthy. He's got a torn ACL. For a guy who relies on his legs, that's not good. Right off the bat, he's got 2 major neck injuries in the last 3 years. I don't know how you can go into 2024 depending on Daniel Jones. And if you're not going to depend on Daniel Jones and you're sitting in a top 2 pick, I don't know how you can't take the opportunity to upgrade your quarterback room. That's how I look at it. Plain and simple. You got to take one of these 2 guys.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. So you get the number 1 pick. It's April. Who you pulling the trigger on?
Caleb Williams, without doubt.
Williams.
Yep. And I like both of them. I think I said this on the pod with Monty. Like I said, you give me that choice 10 out of 10 times, I'm putting Caleb every time. Monty said, well, maybe I wouldn't put it 10 out of 10 times, but he would agree that it's Caleb. Very specifically because I do think that Caleb is a special prospect in terms of all of his natural abilities. He can do physical things that most people cannot do. His arm talent is through the roof. The guy he has great, let's start with his mechanics. Like we talk about like how these guys play. Good mechanics, compact delivery, solid base. He's been well coached, and you can see that. So when he's in a regular drop back, plant his back foot, throw the ball, he has outstanding replicable mechanics. But what makes him special is his arm talent when he's not sitting still, when he's running
off structure,
off structure, off platform. I mean, he does things with his arm that you shouldn't be able to do. Like there are plays on film where he's running to his right, pulling. I think I mentioned this. Like I've never seen an entire defenses where 11 guys are keyed in on one player. The way they key in on Caleb, and that's because of USC's dependence on him. And he moves to the right. The whole defense moves to the right. I've never seen anything like it. So he's running to the right. The entire defense is pulling right with him, and he'll like leap up in the air, his feet off the ground, and throw the ball completely to the other side of the field to the left, just with his arm, which is insane arm talent. And he'll hit the receiver in stride. He can do things like that. He can do things off structure, with structure. He's a little chaotic. I think that's a criticism that I think he tends to like to move.
Hold on to the ball, waiting to make the play a little bit. And I think that was a knock on Justin Fields coming out too. And we saw how that didn't translate to the NFL, especially this year when they asked him to be able to drop down, drop back, look down the field and really make throws in time. I think that's where Justin Fields' weaknesses really showed.
Where I would say I have less of a concern about it with Caleb is when you watch the game film. So when Monty and I did the reviews, we did the top 5 reviews on our pod last week. We're going to do like quarterback 6 through 10 this Friday. We obviously paid for access and we got coaches film for all these players. And we went through 4 games essentially each, 3 to 4 games, whatever we can get our hands on. Awesome. Like usually it was like 2 from last year, 2 from this year, as much as possible. What you see consistently from Caleb, especially this year, is that part of the reason he holds onto the ball is twofold. One, it's what the offense asks him to do. So you see these plays structured where it's just like, it's clearly Caleb, throw the deep ball. You're being coached to throw the deep ball. We trust your arm talent to throw it. So he's back there and he's trying to buy time for his receivers to get in position where he can throw the ball. And then he trusts his ability to hold the ball because he is not bothered by pressure, at least in his mind. He's not fazed by it. He has great pocket manipulation. He moves out of the pocket, and he knows that even if he's on the run, he can make the throw. So he has a tendency to say, I'm going to let the play evolve because I'm not I don't have to rush this. That's number one. Number two, I do think there's sort of an element of his game where he chooses to skip out on the short, easy stuff. Like you'll see crossers. Again, we don't know the progressions and all that stuff, but you see crossers open, and he's looking for the home run. He's a home run hitter by mentality. And I think that leads to him holding the ball a little bit too long. Part of that is coaching. I've seen that with Kyler Murray when Lincoln Riley had him. You saw it with Baker Mayfield. Mm-hmm. You saw it with Jalen Hurts. And I firmly believe that Lincoln Riley coaches this. He depends on his players' natural abilities, and he wants home run hitters. You got to fix that in the NFL. You get to the NFL, you get it. You need to give him an offense and a scheme and some coaching emphasis that says, look, we're going to give you easy stuff. Over the middle and the short area, you got to take it. Your first read is not going to be the home run. It's going to be the crosser. You take it, let the receiver do the work because you have such good arm talent. You're going to hit that guy in stride, unlike what we see now, right? And I think that's going to be a coaching point, but that's a valid knock. He holds the ball too long, and that may result in some problems with pressure this year. He didn't have problems last year, but I don't think that's always replicable. Other than that, though, amazing arm talent, incredible off structure, sees the whole field, goes through his progressions like like this. Like you
quick
can see, I
release,
think
super quick release.
super quick release, incredible ability to make plays happen. He's a competitor. When you watch him, he's leading that whole team. He's the entire offense. And if you want to talk about dual threat quarterbacks, which is important in the NFL, this guy was a running back before he was a quarterback. I think I mentioned that in the pod. Like I looked, like his history was he was a running back, I think in junior high school. And somebody saw him just throw a football. Some coach before he went to Gonzaga in DC. And before he went to high school, some coach said, your arm is too good for you to be a running back. You got to play quarterback. And he actually
decision.
Yeah, so he was such a freak athlete coming out of junior high. Before he played one down at Gonzaga as a freshman, he had an offer for a scholarship at Maryland. That's how well known his athletic ability was. And he turned it down, obviously, and he played the whole time at Gonzaga, and then he ended up going to Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, and then followed him to USC. But the reason he runs the way he does is because he has a running back background. He runs like a running back. You know, he doesn't run like a quarterback. Like Drake Maye, the other guy, runs a lot like the way you see Daniel Jones run. Like these
that worries me. That does worry me a little bit. Caleb runs with more greater vision of the field and what's going on around him. Now, you said y'all did on your podcast, you broke down quarterbacks 1 through 5. I'm curious to know who the quarterbacks are that you had 1 through 5, and then how large of a gap is it from quarterback 2 to 5? You know, when we get off the 2 top prospects, how large of a gap do you think it is with the other guys?
So our ordering system was based on a combination of things. Number one, Monty and I had to agree to it. So there's always, like, we do this for every prospect that we do, every group we do. We argue about where we're putting these people, but we generally land on consensus views. Consensus is usually things like where Dane Brugler has them ranked in athletic, or
Wait, Sal, hold on 1 second. Shout out to everybody who just pulled up. First of all, man. My homie Vach Lombardi must have been just doing a stream, and like everybody just pulled in with the Vach raid. Vach is great content creator for the Dallas Cowboys. Always hyping my stuff up, man. Big shout out to Vach, man, and shout out to all of y'all who just pulled in, just to kind of catch y'all up to what's going on. We're talking about the New York Giants and the prospects that are at the quarterback position. I'm here rocking out with Sal. Sal does a podcast called He's a Giant with his homie Monty, where they literally just break down prospects of players that the New York Giants should be targeting. And we're talking about quarterbacks right now, talking about the top 5 quarterbacks that they had just now in one of his videos. And we got Caleb Williams at number 1, Drake at number 2, and we're going for the next 3 quarterbacks and trying to figure out how large of a gap there is. Go ahead, Sal.
Yeah. So the way we come up with the top 5 is consensus, right? So Dane Brugler, the PFF guys, there are a lot of different ranking systems where generally you get a feel for where scouts view these guys, and then we review the film of for each group. It's like usually 7 to 8 guys. For quarterbacks, we're looking at like 12, 13 guys. But we come up with a top 5, then he and I usually just kind of argue on who we like more and less, and then we kind of just come up with our rough top 1 to 5. Our 1 to 5 in order were number 1, Caleb, number 2, Drake Maye. Number 3 was Shadur Sanders. Number 4 was actually JJ McCarthy out of Michigan. And then number 5 was Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. And there's a reason we came up with that list. So we're not assuming anybody's not declaring. I know there's a lot. Shadur may or may not declare. I know Dion doesn't want him to. And the way we're looking at it is, if you're eligible to declare and you have what looks like a first-round grade on you, or a first or second-round grade, we're going to review you, because there's a chance you may come out, right? Things change. So we're going to review those guys and rank them according to how they would go if they declared. So the gap between Caleb and Maye, in my opinion, is not humongous. I just think they're different types of prospects. Drake Maye he's sort of like a Josh Allen, Justin Herbert prototype. He's got a Herbert-like arm. He kind of runs like a big, I use the term big dummy, like Josh Allen, you know, like he just drops his head like he's a juggernaut and he just, you see him breaking tackles by just like bowling people over. That might work in the ACC. Is that going to work without you getting hurt in the NFL?
Right.
That's an issue, right? With the way Caleb breaks tackles is he's elusive. He runs away from guys. He can break tackles with strength. He's a strong guy, but he's mostly just a good runner. The gap between those 2 and number 3, which was Shadur, is decent. I mean, it's not a small gap. Shadur is a great prospect. I think in many years he would be QB1. But what Shadur doesn't have is like the elite arm talent these guys
That's
have.
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
He can throw the ball and he throws with anticipation, but he does not have one of those big, high-end talent type of arms like a Justin Herbert. The homie Steph Smith is in the building. He said JJ over Jaden Daniels, though.
Yeah, and I'll explain why. and when I get to him. But it's a good question, but I'll explain why.
Yeah.
My comp for Shador has been Joe Burrow. I
Okay.
love the Joe Burrow comp because Joe Burrow doesn't have an elite arm. You know,
You're right.
he does, what Shador does amazingly well is up here. He's an
Hmm.
incredibly quick processor, and he lives under fire. Like you watch those Colorado games, that young man has zero help on the offensive line.
Yeah.
He takes a snap. He looks like he's ready to play on the Giants. Honestly, he's got
A
no
knock
help.
on him has been holding the ball a little bit, and I think because of the way that their offensive line is set up, he's forced to do that to try to make plays and keep his team
Yeah.
in the game.
Yeah, he's not trying to hold the ball. He's doing it because he's trying to get plays. He does, so he other than Travis Hunter, he doesn't have like a great receiving core.
Right.
So he's trying to find guys open or throw them open, and he doesn't get help from the O line. So he's doing it all by himself. He has incredible anticipation. He has great ball placement. I think Shador Sanders, he could come in, start on an NFL team, and within a year, he's like a top 5 to 10 NFL quarterback in my opinion. Just the way he processes the game.
Yeah.
But the other two guys are like they have the potential to be like top 1 to 3 quarterbacks. They're that good, in terms of at least upside, and that's why they're higher than him. Number 4, McCarthy. The reason McCarthy is 4 above some of the other guys is simply because of his age. He's 20 years old, and his trajectory is very high. So McCarthy has a cannon of an arm. People don't realize it because the Michigan system is very run based, right? They have Blake Corum, they have Donovan Edwards. Harbaugh likes to run the rock. They have a power blocking system. And a lot of what he did initially was sort of off play action, supporting the run. He's got good legs. He can run himself. This year, they're throwing the ball more. It's more like 55-45 throwing the ball, which is still not a lot. But he does have he has a cannon of an arm. And when you watch the game film on the guy, he has pinpoint accuracy. Like when he's throwing the ball, especially in the middle of the field, he's hitting guys in stride right in their hands, consistently. So he's an accurate passer. He processes quickly. He's got speed with his legs, and he's got a big, strong arm. I've heard the term high-end game manager. I think that's a good description of him.
Yeah, I describe
right
him as
now.
that too because I feel like he's not like his characteristics are not elite in one category. Good arm, but I don't see like an off the charts type of arm yet. But he is young, like you said.
He's projectable. He's 20. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". He's only like 210 pounds. He's gained weight, or 205. He was 185 pounds last year. He's put on like 20 pounds. He's going to keep gaining weight into that frame. So he's going to be a bigger prospect within a bigger player in the next year or two. And I think that's going to help his game. I think based on projection, this is what scouts look for, right? He would be a little higher than the other guys. So he was 4, and then 5 was Michael Penix Jr., who anybody who watched the pod knows, like he's like one of my favorite players. I love Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's the best passer right now of the entire group. He's the most advanced
mobility that some of the other guys have. But as far as a passer, I'm right there with you.
Right. The problem with Michael Penix Jr. is he's almost 24. He'll be 24 in camp next year, and he's had multiple injuries. He's had 2 ACL injuries, had a shoulder injury. He's had a sternoclavicular injury, which is right here where the clavicle meets where it meets the breastbone. He's had a lot of injuries in the past. He had to leave Indiana, had to resurrect his career, but he did that. He went for 2 years in Washington, resurrected his career, highly productive. What's great about him is while he's not mobile the way these other guys are, he can scramble. He can scramble, get yardage. Like when the play breaks down and he has the running lane, he'll take it. And he'll either slide or he'll just go out of bounds. But he's not going to run for like 20 yards. He'll just go to get a first down and get out of bounds. He's smart about it because I think he's protecting himself wisely. But his arm is a howitzer. This guy has an absolute cannon of an arm.
He can chuck
it. He can chuck it. And if anything, he overthrows guys sometimes. But he has an incredible arm. He can throw off platform. He can throw when he's set. He has very good accuracy. It's not like pinpoint, but he throws his receivers open. He throws with a lot of anticipation. He processes the game as fast as anybody. He does not take sacks. For a guy who's not mobile, I mentioned this, his pressure to sack rate, the amount of pressures that lead to sacks was only 7% this year. It was 3% last year. This guy does not take sacks. He senses pressure. He moves around the pocket, gets the ball out. And these things translate.
stuff right there.
That he makes Sunday throws. He doesn't take sacks. He uses the whole field. He can throw outside the numbers. He has a cannon of an arm. He throws his receivers open. And what impressed me most about him watching his game film was he controls the defense. He controls safeties. Like with his eyes, you watch him. He will keep the deep safety locked into one side of the field. And you can tell he knows he's going to the other side or going somewhere else with the ball. And he will just turn his head at the last second and the ball's out quick. And there's basically no chance for the safety to help. So he basically creates man coverage situations for his outside receivers all the time with just his eyes. he's an advanced quarterback. You can see the experience playing. Then, like again, the knock is his age, the knock is his health, history, and his lack of
What do you feel
mobility.
about the mechanics? The funky
Yeah,
delivery,
the
and then
funky.
also the
He
left-handed.
was a baseball player. Yeah, he was a baseball player, and so he throws like a reliever, like a middle inning
Yeah,
reliever is how I described him, like a 3/4 delivery. It's funky. He
yeah,
gets
it's
it.
definitely funky.
It's like he
That's
gets
that Henry Rowan
it.
Gardner.
Yeah, exactly. Like he gets that, but he gets torque on the bad boy. Like he
Yeah,
uses that thing to throw the ball like with a lot of pop. His spin rate is crazy. I just think that's the way he throws it. I mean, I would not want to change the guy's mechanics because that's what got him here. You just got to live with it. And I think there are going to be some limitations with touch because of that. Like I think everything
yeah,
is like a cannon. So, and Monty made that point. I thought about it. I'm like, I think he's right. Like there are some times where he's overthrowing the deep ball because he doesn't have like the arc that some other guys have.
yeah,
Sometimes, not all the time. But I think that's just because of the delivery. I don't think he can really change his motion to like do this. He's more of like a 3/4 thrower, and that's
yeah.
just his
It looks
natural
like
way.
Philip Rivers a little bit to me.
A little bit, he has like that Philip Rivers delivery. So, look, he's a great prospect. To me, he's a guy that is going to thrive in certain systems if they're not asking him to run RPO, which I don't think he can do very efficient, very
Yeah,
effectively.
doesn't look like it.
He's like what they used to call like the pro style offense, right? Drop back, pass the ball. That's where he does well, under center or in shotgun. So I'm thinking Minnesota, Tampa, Seattle, those kinds of offenses where he has receivers that he can throw open, and he has offensive lines that can give him just enough time. He does the rest. I think that's a great offense for him. Is he a good fit for the Giants? Like I said, I don't necessarily think so. If Brian Dable wants to run the same offense we've seen the last couple of years, that
Yeah,
doesn't mean they can't adapt the offense for him, but they better adapt the offensive line for him if they get it, because they can't ask him to have like a blocking offensive line and bring him in and expect the guy to be successful. So
yeah, that
that's
makes
sort of my
sense.
take
So,
on the there is a gap. To answer your question, there's a gap because all of the last three guys have deficiencies
yeah.
or lack of production or lack of fulfillment of their talent that the top two guys don't have. Those guys are at a different level.
Got you. So, let us know when you guys are going to do the 6 through 10, and also let the people in the chat know where they can check you out at before I send you away.
Yeah. So we usually record on Thursday evening. So Monty will probably post it on noon on Friday, and we're probably gonna do the premiere viewing again. It's not live, but the
Yeah,
reason we don't do it live is because there's so much density of information we want to go through. We don't want necessarily like be interacting with the chat as we do it. It's not that we don't
totally.
want to do it. So he's probably going to post it at noon on Friday on YouTube. You can look it up at He's a Giant Pod. We're on Apple or on Spotify if you would rather listen to it. So you can find it there. Both we've done all the position groups so far. Quarterback's the last one, so we've done interior line, offensive tackle, all the defensive positions, running back, you name it. We've gone through all
That's
these
great. That's
prospects.
great.
And so you can find us there. You can find me on Twitter at Queens_guy. Monty's at Montecristo. It's at MONTECRI5TO or at He's a Giant Pod, just spelled out HESA Giant Pod. So you can find us there. You can reach out to us. We love interacting with people. I want to make one last shout out and a comment before I go because I know you're busy.
Yeah.
To my friends, the MLK crew, who
Big
are the
shout
reason.
out.
Big shout out. Who are the most knowledgeable ball knowers I've ever encountered.
Yes.
They have the best group of people I've ever encountered on this app to this day. They're awesome. And so I learn a ton from them, and we have great interactions daily. And our friend Stan sent me a message, and I have to share it. And he said that for the people who are claiming the Giants should just skip on a day one pick and try to replicate the Jalen Hurts model of trying to hit a home run on a day two pick,
Yeah.
a lot of them are the same people who who love ripping Jalen Hurts, saying that he's not a very good quarterback. So make that make sense. Make it make sense. The same people who are saying skip on quarterback day one and take your own Jalen Hurts don't even show respect to the real Jalen Hurts. So don't do that. Don't do that.
Right there, man.
Yeah. If you don't think Jalen Hurts is him, don't do that. Then you should want the Giants to take their quarterback early on day one.
Yep.
And if you
want
want
the
the Giants
came into this year saying that Daniel Jones was better than Jalen Hurts, and I'm like, y'all just not watching ball. Y'all
right. And
focused on the Giants too much.
Now, if you think Jalen Hurts is him and you want the Giants to do it, get on the timeline and say that and stop slandering that man. Get on the timeline and give us
I'm gonna need
props.
some receipts before I allow people to do that.
Oh,
I'm gonna need some receipts.
For those of you who are going to do it, just keep in mind that this man keeps more receipts than anybody I've ever met, and he has dropped them on me in the chat. He's dropped them on me on the timeline, and I'm like, I better watch what I type.
So, make you think twice about putting something out there in the public. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Anyway, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you giving us a chance to shout out the pod, man.
You know it, bro. Long overdue. I remember when Stan first told me about you, man. He was like, yo, Sal no ball, bro. Sal no ball. And it's been a pleasure meeting y'all and being able to chop it up with all y'all in them spaces. Shout out to Nunu. Shout out to Jabri. Shout out to Stan. Shout out to Mace. Who else part of MLK? That's
I'll tell you right now. So Nunu, Stan, Jabri, Mace, Ash. Jamie, AJ, Raina,
Momo,
Mackie. No, Momo's not in that group. Momo's in the
squad though.
No, he's the leader of the Momos. That's different. That's a different squad.
Big shout out
but to all our friends, Crossmo, everybody. But like, you guys are all awesome, and I appreciate all of you and all the support. We got damn near 5,000 views on that thing already, so I was shocked. I was over 200.
That's awesome, because y'all bringing. You know, I always tell people, if you're going to jump into the content creation game, especially in the Giants community, just bring value first. Don't try to be replicating what other people are doing. Try to figure out your own way. I remember when you first told me about that podcast idea, I was like, bro, there ain't nobody doing that. And to be able to talk college ball in season, I know a lot of people don't like that. They're like, oh, wait till after the season's over, then we'll talk quarterbacks and draft and all that shit. But for us that are football heads, we love that kind of content during the year, man. So big salute to you, man, and thank you for pulling up, you know, like last minute, just pulling up and rocking out with us on this episode, bro.
All right, brother. I'm gonna head out before my family tries to stab me on the way home. So you guys have a good rest of your evening.
You know it, man. I'll catch you in the spaces, fam.
Take care.
Peace, yo. That's Sal, man, from He's a Giant pod, man. That was an awesome discussion. I'm glad that he pulled up for this impromptu stream that we did today, too, man. Like, he's definitely one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to talking college prospects and all that. I definitely wanted to get his insight on that. That was really good, really amazing. Appreciate him pulling up, man. Make sure y'all go subscribe to his channel as well. It's called He's a Giant. I believe Monty from their podcast posted the links in the description. And he told you, man, he's breaking down every position. Both of them are breaking down all these positions. So it's not just valuable content for the New York Giants community. This could be for anybody who's a fan of any other team. You can see prospects coming out and get, you know, some people that are knowledgeable about the, you know, the topic at hand and whatnot, and give you some good game on that. So big shout out, big salute to Sal, big shout out to Monty in the building, man. I see a bunch of y'all. I see Big Dashes in the building too, man. Make sure y'all go sub up. Shout out to Vach, man, for sending y'all over here for that raid. Vach did not have to do that, man. That's major of Vach to be able to come over here and support a channel that don't even really talk about just Cowboys football. We're more New York Giants centered, and the Beard, you know, being a Commanders fan, we try to cover the NFC East weekly, but big shout out to Vach, man. That was major right there. Vach always told me, he's like, man, I'm going to send some people your way, and he definitely did that. He's a man of his word, so salute to Vach, man, for doing that. Man, shout out to the gang. We got over 100 people in the building, man, that rocked out with us today on this just out of the blue stream, man. So, you know, I'm enjoying this, man. This lets you know that I enjoy what I do, man. Appreciate all of y'all pulling up, rocking out with us today, man. Could not be doing this without y'all. Big shout out to the fam. Y'all know what it is, man. And give one of these for the homie Vach one time, too, man. That was a blessing in disguise, man. Sending everybody over here to come check out one of these streams, man. We don't get to talk college ball too much over here, but the state of the New York Giants is forcing us to talk about the draft. This was a stream that was all about should the New York Giants be in the mode of tanking, and I think that is the case here with sending out Tommy DeVito. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be doing a preview show for Week 11 in the NFC East. We got my New York Giants taking on the Commanders here in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be at that game. We'll be going over the Dallas Cowboys game and the Philadelphia Eagles game as well. And then on Sunday, we'll be doing the parlay, talking some fantasy football. Big shout out to all of y'all for sticking around for almost an hour and a half. Replay gang, y'all put the biceps in the chat before we get up out of here. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know how we end every stream, man. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams, because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Rest in peace and shout out to the podcast GOAT, Mr. Combat Jack himself. And that's a wrap, y'all. Y'all enjoy y'all Wednesday evening. It's been getting dark so early. I'm about to step outside to a whole dark community and whatnot. I was trying to get some sun out here today, but that's not going to be the case. But y'all be good. Enjoy yourselves. We'll catch y'all tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all be good. Catch y'all on the next one, man. Peace.